Good afternoon. Looks like everybody is on at this point. Thank you for coming to our Lunch and Learn for the month of July. It's hard to believe we're more than halfway through the year. I'm not sure where it went, but anyway, here we are. Thank you for being here today. We're excited to have Andy Van Hook from Appeal Production with us. This is the first of a three-part series that is going to be very helpful to all of us, no matter our role or company. So we're really looking forward to hearing from Andy and his expertise. Be sure and sign up for the next two parts as well, which will be in August and September, same time, same place, so that we can continue the conversation. I'll post a link at the end as well to our calendar of events. We do have Business After Hours tomorrow night coming up in Waynesboro. That'll be a lot of fun. Some other great things coming up. So I'll post that at the end for anyone interested. But with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Andy so he can take the bulk of this time. And if you all have any questions as we're going, please put those in the chat, and I'm sure we'll have some time at the end, but feel free to use that chat box for anything you've got pressing. So Andy, thank you for being here, and take it away.
Thanks, Courtney. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and chat today. And thanks everybody for taking time out of their day to show up. I know it's this is one way you could choose to eat your lunch, and I'm glad you chose to spend it with me. We're going to talk a little bit about recruitment marketing and some ideas about how you can improve those and get some better fit applicants to your business and stand out from other competitors in the marketplace. I'm going to screen share real quick. Maybe if I can, there it is. All right. Everybody got my screen? Good. Excellent. All right. So it says it right there. Your vanilla job posts just aren't cutting it. And so, you know, as soon as there's a common name for something, that's when we start to know that it's real, right? You may have felt it before the media even gave it a name. And the Great Resignation has hit many businesses really hard. And, you know, it's not your fault. But yet, as an HR professional or somebody looking to hire for their business or organization, everybody's looking to solve it. And, you know, not only do you want new bodies in the door, but you're going to need to produce better training so the newbies get up to speed fast. And let's not forget, we got to solve the problem of the revolving exit door as well, because our employees are also leaving to go to other places. So that's where this series is going to take you through. Is first, we're going to talk about the recruitment aspect. Second, we're going to talk about the training piece. And third, we're going to talk about the retention aspect. And the other piece of this is that incoming workers are increasingly bewildered by all the job board noise. I mean, there's lots of jobs available. Seen a lot of statistics out nationally. I saw one recently, I think that came out that in the greater Shenandoah Valley footprint, there are over 3,100 manufacturing jobs available. 3,100. That's just in manufacturing. So that's a pretty significant number of positions available. And with that, that means all those businesses are hiring, along with any other organization or type of business and industry who are struggling with their hiring needs. They're advertising for those positions as well. So there's a lot of noise out there on how to engage those potential workers. And so, you know, a lot of them are seeing common headlines or ads that are touting the hourly rate that they're starting at. Or maybe it's a really nice signing bonus. And, you know, that leaves a lot of businesses feeling like the only way that they can compete is on wages alone. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. I feel like that there's other opportunities for businesses and organizations to really engage potential workers and bring them into to the interview space and then also hire them. Well, first, we're going to start off with a bit of a story. So I want everybody here to take for a moment that you have a job applicant. You have a job applicant who you've talked to, you've interviewed, you've gone through the process, and you want to hire them. Well, that job applicant may have multiple offers. Let's pretend that there's 3 offers on the table for that job applicant. They all have similar job descriptions. The pay rate is essentially the same, and the benefits are also on par with one another. So again, now let's imagine they've interviewed they've aced the interview process. They get offers for all 3 organizations within the same week. They decide to take the weekend to consider which job is the right fit for them. After thinking through the pros and cons of each job, they realize the day-to-day responsibilities, take-home pay, commute, and other basic aspects of the position are very comparable. It's essentially the same job, just at different companies. So how in the world did they decide which offer to accept? Any ideas? I've got a dog who's participating, so any participation from you guys would be a little bit helpful.
Hopefully they've heard about the company from a friend.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
I would say some form of connection.
Yeah. Connection is always good. And hearing about it from somebody else and having that has experience there, that's also that does have a huge influence. So, I understand that, everybody who's looking to hire people are really tired and stressed in this labor market, and know that you want to increase your ideal applicants and fill your workstations so that your company can deliver on the promises that you put out to your customers. And from my experience, I think there's a better way to connect with eager applicants than to endlessly talk about a starting wage. And I'm sure we've all seen like yard signs like this, right? They're lined up one after another. They could be all for the same company. They could be for multiple companies in a row. They have large dollar amounts for signing bonuses. Really think that there's an opportunity to reconnect in a different way. And we need to consider that employees now, or potential employees now, are buyers. We're in a labor market where labor has a lot more control and say in choosing the job that they pick. There's so many jobs available. They can be nimble and picky about where they want to go. And so making sure that your company is standing out from the rest and is a good fit for them and for you happens through some of the messaging and other pieces that we're going to talk about. A lot of times I've, been talking to folks, when they get into hiring mode, they forget that they're still selling their company. Before, it may have been a little easier because there were less jobs available and more people were competing for the jobs that were there. Well, we're in the opposite of that now. So in that space, we need to remember that when you're selling your company to a potential customer, you're defining all the attributes and things that will be beneficial to them on why they should join your organization, like the Chamber of Commerce, or buy a video like from my company. So we're reaching out to potential customers and talking about the merits of our business and why we matter and how we can help our customers. We need to put that hat on when we're talking about our employees. And where I'm seeing a big gap now is a lot of organizations haven't made that shift yet. So there's opportunity for you, everybody who's on this call, to make that shift and start talking about the benefits of your company beyond pay, the compensation, the medical benefits, the job description, the hours, those kinds of things. It's the deeper connection that you want to get into that's important to them. So I've got another question, and Courtney knows that I will do a pregnant pause for a long period of time if I don't get a response and make it awkwardly uncomfortable for everybody. So the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit. I want some responses from you all. You've hired people. You're looking to hire people. or if you weren't, you probably wouldn't be on this call today. So on this meeting today. So what's the main motivator for most people when it comes to work?
I would say for me, it would be continuance in the career path, and not only just the job that you're applying for, and then also an opportunity for educational sponsorship, whether that be, pay for, materials or half a semester, something like that. But to encourage us to move up through the company and to continue the education.
Good. Thank you, Zach.
Sure.
Do you mind if I ask what organization you're with?
Sure. I'm with bookkeeper.com. So we're a local accounting firm in Waynesboro.
Great. Thank you. Who's next? What's the main motivator for most people when it comes to work?
Hi, Andy. My name is K-Style Madden. I work for the Workforce Development Board. And while I don't do a lot of hiring, I work with employers, and I see a couple of them on here that I'm familiar with. I also do a lot of work readiness training. And so I get to work with participants and job seekers as well. Honestly, the main motivator for a lot of people is pay. And that's the first thing they want to look at. And when we're coaching and letting them know, we're trying to encourage them to look at the total package, to look at not just pay and benefits, but look at flexibility. Where are they located? Is there a commute? And the buzzword culture, some employers haven't really thought about their culture and how that pertains to what people are looking for today.
Yeah, thank you. What was your name again?
K-Style.
K-Style. Thank you. Great answer. How I'm going to ask you a question back to that real quick before I prod for a couple of more responses. So you mentioned you mentioned it from people who are looking for work, correct? That you're telling them to look beyond the pay and into deeper aspects. When they're looking for those other pieces, right, beyond the pay and the benefits and those kinds of things, how easy are those other elements for them to find typically?
Sometimes it's a challenge because, well, I'll take it from working with an employer. Sometimes they'll say, well, we work 4 days a week and everyone has Fridays off. And I ask, do you promote that? So certain things that I think employers have that may make them stand out for someone, they're not necessarily promoting. And if you don't promote it, a lot of times job seekers don't know to ask for certain, well, what does flexibility look like for this company? For me, it looks like a split shift so I can, have childcare. But if you don't let them know that that's what you have available or that you're willing to work with them, then there's a disconnect.
Yep, absolutely. Those are those intangible things that each business, or unique things that each business usually has either something to offer or reason that separates them from other potential hires, other potential employers. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, somebody else, give me 2 more answers on what's the main motivator for most people when it comes to work.
Hey, Andy, this is Jen from Valley Program for Aging Services.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, so I think it's important to acknowledge people's work and their efforts and to extend words of appreciation and validation and to provide opportunities for constructive feedback. That may not be important to everybody, but I think it's an important part of the work that we do to let people know that they're valued and appreciated and that their work matters and means something. So, yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for that, Jen. I appreciate it. It's a great answer too. One more.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Stills from F&M Bank,
Hi,
and
Rebecca.
we get a lot of training. And how are you going to invest in me, and how fast can I be promoted?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Good. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. All those are excellent answers, and none of them are correct. Actually, I'm lying. They're all correct in some form or fashion. You know, and the main motivator for most people when it comes to work is financial. You know, it is the money thing. That is number one by far. However, as we talked about earlier in the scenario we walked through, when all things are equal in that space, what are those other motivators? So, you know, while making money is that factor, it's not the main motivator for most people when they're considering joining an organization. People want something bigger than themselves, want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to have a clear path for their future and the company's future, and also see that there are opportunities for promotion and growth. So a few ways that we encourage our clients when we're helping them with their recruitment video marketing aspects is the first thing to do is focus on their needs. And I started to hear that from some of you in the last answer or last question I asked is, what are those needs that those employees have? I know a lot of HR professionals have things that they need or have to put into job postings for, you know, whether it's legal requirements or corporate requirements or those kinds of things. And so I know those pieces have to be in there. The challenge here that I'm going to pose to you today is relook at how that is formatted and formulated. The need of the prospective employee, those needs need to be first. And so while pay may be the number one thing, is that the driving factor that's going to get them to look at that job post and potentially find out more about your organization and then apply for that position? And so, you know, we see the most effective job postings, you know, put the employee at the center of their own adventure, right? Because this is a decision we all make about our lives, is where we choose to work. You know, most of us spend about 80% of our life at work, right? And so, again, all things are equal. They're going to be center of that, and they're going to want to drive where those decisions make and go. So how do you put them at the center there? Well, no, not how, but you need to put them at the center of their own adventure when you're posting job positions. You know, show they're just more than just someone filling a position. There's someone who you want to have a long career at your company. So give them that opportunity. Tell them that at the beginning. You know, what are they doing? How are they making a difference? What does it matter? And this gentleman on the screen here is working on a plane engine. You know, he can see that as just, you know, I come to work, I check the thing, I make sure that the wiring's correct, and, you know, it moves on down the line, and I've got one more coming right behind it. That's great. But that job's pretty important to make sure that that jet engine is safe and that the passengers that are going to be flying on the airplane that it goes into all make it home to see their families. It's a little bit of a twist on what the bigger meaning of that job. So encouraging people to connect with those prospects in a different way on that emotional level, and why it matters. A big thing I also encourage is to simplify your message. You know, it's when applicants have a lot of options, it's a lot more difficult to reach them. You know, they have a lot. We've talked about the positions that are available. So, and the more difficult you make the job to understand, between throwing in the requirements for the job or the duties of the job or the hours of the job, the pay, the bonus structure, vacation time, all of those things, or even how to apply, you're making it difficult for them to choose you. So that means you're going to lose that prospect. So simplifying your message is really going to go a long way towards getting them to the next step of applying, or well, next step of learning more about your business and or applying. So your goal is to get them interested and invite them to take that next step. And how you do that, again, going back to the last slide, we focus on what their needs are, what their wants are, and pull back on maybe a lot more of the details and leave that to another step in the process. We also encourage our clients to highlight the impact. And this is something I touched on a moment ago. And this really resonates with a lot of people. And especially when, again, all things are equal with pay and benefits and those types of things, similar job. If you do a good job of highlighting the impact that they're going to make when they're doing that job, you're going to get a leg up on your competitors, because people want to make a difference. They want to feel like that what they do, where they spend 80% of their life, matters, especially younger generations. It's a big thing. Beyond feel, they want the pay to make sure that they're secure at home. They want to feel safe in their work environment. They also want to know that they make a difference. So what does that look like? And I believe enough people care about their impact that it should headline your job posting, and it should be included throughout your job posting. And what I mean by that, it's reframing the work being done at your facility to impact it's reframing the work being done to the impact being made in the world. Helps to show those potential employees and make them feel part of your bigger mission, and fulfills them on back to their life adventure. It helps them be fulfilled on their life's adventure. And so this example here, we did a recruitment campaign for Banker Steel, and they're a steel beam manufacturer based in Lynchburg. They have 6 facilities, one in New Jersey, right outside of New York, one in Orlando, 2 in Lynchburg, one in South Carolina, and one in Georgia. And they were looking for welders. And when we talked to them, there were a lot of pieces that they'd tried. They'd posted, paid advertising and for job posts and that kind of thing. And we sat down with them and worked through what the messaging piece was first, because, it's tough for us as a video company to tell a good story if we don't have the messaging right on the front end. And so as we walked through that, there were more than just welding. There's a lot of welding jobs available in a lot of different businesses and industries. The work that Banker Steel does is they make steel beams for high rises. So places that you may be familiar with, the National Stadium in DC, they provided all the steel beams for that. The Barclays Center in New Jersey, numerous buildings in New York and Chicago, Philadelphia, they supplied the steel beams for those. And those are manufactured at their facility and made by welders. And so what we helped them come to with the messaging was, instead of putting, at this bottom piece, it says here, the little ideal state, as we call it, instead of putting in, pay starts at $18 an hour, it's build the structures and skylines, the structures that define cities and skylines for generations. So all of a sudden, you're not, quote unquote, just a welder. You're somebody who welds. You're a professional that has a purpose, that makes a bigger purpose to make sure that the work you're doing is building these incredible structures that stay for generations. It was really powerful, worked for them well. And it came from just talking to them a little bit about the things that their employees tell them about why they were proud to work there. They had numerous people that worked at any of their given facilities who would take their vacation time and go to the city that a project they had been working on was in or being constructed in to show their families what they do. It mattered that much that they would take their time off to go highlight the work that they do at home. So figuring out what that story is for your business or organization and why it matters and how it connects and resonates, to me, it's a huge aspect and a differentiator, because a lot of people just aren't using it or optimizing that opportunity. And, you know, as I mentioned a couple of times, I'm a co-owner in a video marketing company and appeal production, and I'm going to encourage you to use visuals as much as you can. You know, and that's not just because it's a sales pitch from me, it's because as humans, we've been searching for human faces in our environment ever since we were babies. And as adults, it's no different. We connect when we see other human beings. We see that these people here are smiling and they are doing their job, and they seem happy with the work that they're doing in this facility. And so not only do visuals grab attention, photos and videos show your job candidates what success looks like for them. It lets them put themselves in that photo, in that video. Helps them to take one more step closer to connecting with your business or organization. And just so you know, quick FYI, 83% of people prefer watching videos to reading text content. So I know if you post an ad in a newspaper, as it were, pretty tough to throw a video in there for a job posting. However, if you're doing a lot of your postings online, you got a great opportunity there to talk a little bit about your business. I think it was mentioned earlier, you know, what does that culture piece look like? What's the place going to feel like when I go to work there? So there's a lot of opportunity there to use those visuals to connect, tell that story, have them picture where they are, and highlight the important work that they're doing. All of these things beyond pay or benefits or time off or hours, split shift, all those things are important. I'm not dismissing them. I'm saying when all things are equal, which in the space they are now, there's a lot more jobs open than there are people available. Those are ways we have to stand out. So let's go back to the original scenario. That person rocked 3 interviews. They got 3 job offers. Which company do you think that they're going to choose? Are they going to choose yours? You had some of these elements in place, a few of these elements in place, none of these elements in place. I think that's really important to consider. I won't make you answer that question. I'll let that be a reflective question there for you. You know, what is the way to stand out? It may not necessarily be in the same industry. You're competing for workforce. Everybody is right now. And environment, impact that they're going to make, outlining their future, giving them a clear path to what advancement could look like early is important. Whether or not they choose to take it, that will be on them and how they perform. But most people want to know that those opportunities are there and want to know what it takes to get there too. So, all right. So next up is Q&A. Believe it or not, I'm going to take this off screen share for a moment. So if anybody wants to pop their camera on, ask some questions, talk a little bit. Courtney knows I like to talk, but I feel like that this is an opportunity to have a conversation. I want to hear what your questions are, what you all are seeing that works for you and your businesses, what you're struggling with. And if you had questions about any of the slides or talking points we had earlier. I bored everybody to sleep.
K-Style, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask the question because when you mentioned visuals, and again, I assist employers with some of their recruitment, and we don't always get to help them with their visuals that they create. But you made a comment about seeing faces. Do you think having people and humans in your visuals is more effective than showing products?
I would say yes. The product is the end result. The people are the piece that it helps the prospect to connect and say, hey, that could be me. And that's what they're looking for. Because going back to the first point was focus on their needs and their wants. We've got to put them at the center of the story. So using people photos helps them visualize themselves there and putting themselves, oh, I could see myself working there. I could see myself potentially doing that. It's less about what the company makes or creates or does for their customers. It's about what they want. What's about what your prospective employee wants and how they can visualize themselves doing the job that you have available.
Good point. And just to back up your story about people taking vacation, a friend of mine's mother worked at a place that produces doors, and they went somewhere to look at some exotic cars. And instead of looking at the exotic cars, they were looking at the doorway to the showroom, because those are the type of doors that she produced.
Case in point. I mean, it's, we're, like I mentioned earlier, we all work, it's a big part of our lives. And we want it to be important and relevant regardless of what the task is. And, like you said, they were excited about the doors and got to talking about it because they were proud of the work that they did, the company that they worked for. And they were like, hey, those are ours and we do this and this takes blah, blah, blah. And it may take it gets their family interested in what they do. Probably gets them asking more questions because likely, like most of us, since we do work so much, we go home and we don't want to talk about it, or we complain about the bad parts and we never really talk about the good, fun parts that we get to do and the parts that we really enjoy. Thank you for that question and comment, K-Style.
I always use Hollister as an example. For those of you that aren't familiar with what they do, they make medical supplies, most specifically colostomy bags, which is not very exciting. Like, that's not a very sexy product, right? But when you go there for a tour, their people are so excited. They have displays all over the place at their different stations or sections that show actual people, and their employees are proud of it. And they always tell a story, and they have a picture, or they did last time I was there. It's been a while, but they talk about this little boy who they created this specific kind of bag and connector for children. And he said, I'm not embarrassed anymore. It hides under my clothes. Like, they know why what they're doing is important, when it doesn't sound like, oh, it's not, not a big deal. So I think being able to find, it's really easy if you work at a company where, we have several people on this call today who are helping people. That's kind of an easy way you can share what you do and how you're helping and what you're doing. When you're making a product, maybe that's not as big a deal, but you think, well, also like Hershey's, could we all live without Reese cups? Probably. Do we want to?
No.
No, but we could. But they don't focus so much on what they're producing as what they do with their revenue. The Milton Hershey School and helping all these children that would have never had any kind of education, all the scholarship funding. I mean, they're one of our biggest scholarship donors for academic achievers. So, getting beyond, I think, just the here's what we produce. And like you said, getting back to tying it to the purpose and the why. I feel like, a couple generations ago, the factory workers wouldn't have thought beyond. We packed 40 cases of Reese cups today, but now it's become more than that. And I think that's what's important, is helping, businesses reach that, not just the what you're doing, but the why. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Courtney. And I'm going to do a yes and, because I agree wholeheartedly with all those comments. To your Hershey scenario, I don't know if I could live without Reese cups, but we'll pretend that I could. The community aspect is hugely important. So people want to feel like they're working for a company that is tied to the community. So that is huge as well. The other part of that is, yeah, you may pack 40 cases of Reese cups a day. Who's the end user of that Reese cup? Maybe it's a kid who had a bad day at school, and that Reese cup was like that moment when he got home off the bus that he needed to pick his day up a little bit. I mean, and so there's some of those avenues of what that story can be and look like. Is it a direct A-B line? Not every time, but a lot of times you can look at any job in any organization and go, okay, well, how's it benefiting someone down the line? Somewhere it has to. I love the story that you were talking about with Hollister. As my mom had a medical procedure a couple of years ago, and emergency one, and wound up having to have a colostomy bag for a while. And it was vital, and so thank you for that. Other thoughts or questions? Things that you all are doing that you're seeing that works, or maybe tell me I've lost my mind. I'm up for that too. Shasta wants the lost your mind comment. I can see it on her face.
And not to
I
steal
feel like
Andy's.
you're. Oh,
Go ahead.
I feel like you're talking to me whenever you said that.
I say not to steal Andy's thunder, but also this is a 3-part series. We have 2
Yep.
more after this. So if there's anything along these lines that you have burning questions about or want to hear him talk about, let us know that too. Yeah,
absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's 3 parts in this journey for a new hire. This is the early part, right? This is the recruitment piece. This is how do you attract them and get them in. And the other piece of, at least on this one, I'll pause there for a moment, is with the attraction for recruitment. I would rather you put your work on your messaging and get your messaging right and have less applicants, but better, and people who are more connected and want to work for your organization applicants. So I'd rather you go from 20 that are just applying because, all right, all these, the bonus sounds great and the pay's on what I needed and blah, blah, blah. I'd rather you whittle that down to 8 that are really excited about working for your organizations because of the reasons that you gave them with those job posts. So 3 parts. Thank you for that, Courtney. So first part is the recruitment piece. How do we attract and work on those vanilla job board postings? The next one is training. And we want to talk about why poor training is risky and how that's important to those new hires, to your current employees, and why that messaging and aspect is important to continue that journey for your employees. And those lead up to the last one, which is on retention. How do we make sure that the messaging is in place and they've felt this journey from the time that they were recruited to work there and the time they started working there and they were trained. And now what are we going to do to make sure that they stick around, or give them the best opportunity to stick around, and giving them what's that path they're going to go on, and how do we make sure that they're going down that path if they want to, and keeping them around.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Anything else for Andy?
I'm watching
you
like
very
the
much.
I'm watching the
I know.
screen, waiting for like one microphone to come on. I'm going to jump on them. I'm like,
We should have made everybody tell us what they're eating for lunch today, because I'm always
There you
curious
go.
about that. Well, Andy, I'm going to wrap it up here and then we'll have
Sure.
one more announcement. But I'm going to stop the recording, but thank you so much for doing this. This was excellent. I'm looking forward to the next two. I think this is important to talk about. We will be able to post this on our website a little bit later today, so y'all can reference it again or share it. So I'm going to thank Andy and turn off our recording, but don't go anywhere.